Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Ready? Cut. Forward. Arm. Right. Stay. Forward. Arm.
All right, welcome everyone. What a beautiful summer night to have the mayor, Eric Genrich's State of the City address here at an icon in Green Bay, Bay Beach Amusement Park. Can everybody hear me okay out there?
Gotcha.
All right. I am honored to welcome you this evening from the same location that back in 1934, Teddy Roosevelt actually spoke here at Bay Beach at the Pavilion, and the mayor gets to have a State of the City here tonight. It's a privilege to be here to welcome you. My name is James Anderson. I serve the City of Green Bay as the Deputy Director of the Parks Department. I feel very fortunate that over the last 15 years, I got to work for the best and most unique Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Department. I mean, 67 parks, a wildlife sanctuary, aquatic centers, trails, ball fields, and an amusement park. I mean, I can't think of another Parks Department that actually has an historic amusement park attached to them that can say they run that. That's pretty cool. When they asked me to welcome everyone tonight, they originally said to keep it short and simple. And I wondered, in these 15 years, did they really get to know me? Because I don't know if you picked the right person to keep it short and simple, but I'll do my best tonight to keep it short and simple as possible, okay? Once again, welcome everyone this beautiful night. It reminds me how fortunate we are to live, work, and recreate in a community like Green Bay. On a night like tonight, it reminds me of summer, growing up, being in the parks, swimming, and playing baseball. Which then, last night I was thinking about this, because I got asked, I think at about 6 p.m., to welcome the mayor, I think last night. So I was thinking about this, and I was like, you know, what is one of the most memorable moments I've had thus far with the mayor? And I have to give you a little bit of background first. I played baseball growing up in a small town, which I think we actually have more summer seasonal staff for the Parks Department than I did people in my town growing up. So it's not necessarily, I'm not gloating when I say I was the best baseball player in our conference, because it really wasn't much to gloat about, but I wasn't bad at baseball, okay? So, and I'm not real sure if the mayor knew that, but I know the mayor has been thrown quite a few curveballs in his term so far, but none that could have prepared him for what he encountered on the Mayor's Kids Day last month. During the afternoon portion of Kids Day, at an event over at Joanne Stadium we were hosting, with the help of the Blue Ribbons baseball team, which, by the way, plays tonight, opening pitch, 7:30, over at Joanne Stadium, if you want to go after this. But they were putting on a Kids Day baseball camp that we hosted for Kids Day. And to open up the camp, the mayor turns to me and he says, hey, James, hey, to start this up, I should probably throw to you a couple pitches. You can do some BP, some batting practice. And I'm like, well, yeah, that sounds fun. I mean, I get to do this for a job. I get to take some BP. It sounds like a great thing. And the general manager of the Blue Ribbons was in the back field. He had about 50 to 100 kids doing some drills back there. And he kind of yells over. He goes, hey, Mayor, you want me to grab that pitching L screen? Maybe, put it in front of you, keep it safe so you don't get hit with the ball. And the mayor's just like, oh, no, it'll be okay, as he tosses me this nice meatball right down the pipe. And I just, I load up, I square up, and I give it a good hit. There it is. Good way to plan that, guys. And so I give it a hit, and line drive, 100 mile per hour, right back at the mayor, right in his gut. And without even wincing or whatever, he kind of whirls and catches it and snaps it. And, the kids were all like, yeah, all right, But I was this close as he's then going to get the L screen with the GM of the Blue Ribbons to get it for safety purposes now. Our director, Dan Ditchite, kind of slowly walks over to me and very nonchalant, like, hey, you just about took out the mayor in Kids Day. That would be interesting. But anyway, that's just one of the stories that I have. It's not all fun and games, of course. But when asked to do the welcome, I'm glad you caught it, Mayor. I'm glad you caught that ball. All right, I still have a job, which is good. And the mayor has a knack for staying calm, is my point here, even when that 100 mile per hour line drive comes flaring right back at him. I'm so grateful to be a part of what this city is currently doing, and the future looks bright as well. It's not all fun and games, though. It's a lot of hard work and building relationships. So without further ado, you didn't come to hear me talk all night here. Thanks for coming out tonight to historic Bay Beach Amusement Park. And to introduce the mayor tonight, another guy that has been focused for a long time now on bettering the greater Green Bay area, Brown County Executive Troy Streckenbach.
Well, good evening, everyone. What a beautiful evening to be celebrating the successes of the city of Green Bay. When I think back about the challenges and the aspirations of why people run for office or why they put themselves out there to do things to better their community, you often kind of look at, how can I have an impact? What can I do to cross the bridge and work with the other side or work with the other municipality, close the gap, bust the bubble, I don't know. The reality is this: 4 years ago, or just before 4 years ago, the mayor and I decided that we were going to do a joint ceremony ushering in our new terms. And since that day, the relationship has been strong. We've worked together to really try to move the needle on some major projects that have been talked about for a really long time. And from that standpoint, when you are at least able to pick up the phone and talk and work through issues and get department heads to work together, think about a lot of the projects that we have going on right now here in Brown County in the city of Green Bay. Right now we're right here near Nicolay Drive. We have some serious flooding problems that were taking place. Brown County and the city of Green Bay joined forces and are working on resolving some of those problems. I look right here, Brown County has access to one of the greatest man-made waterfront pieces of property of 55 acres, right near this regional asset. And we have an opportunity to make that into a passive recreational asset for the community. At the same time, the city and the county are joined in force to make sure that we receive the National Estuary Research facility located right here in Greater Green Bay. We think that might be a good location. The mayor's probably going to be talking about all this good stuff. The point being is, Oleum site, shipyard, coal piles, all of that's happening because there is a willingness of the administration, Mayor Genrich, to want to work with the city or the county wanting to do the same. It's been a great relationship. I appreciate the fact that we enjoy talking with one another. And I think that's half the battle. Getting past we may have a different issue or position on an issue, but we actually enjoy each other's conversations. This goes long before we ever were actually elected in our positions. I've known Eric way before. Actually, I think I knew him before he was a librarian or worked at the library. I know his dad because I walked by, and his mom because I walked by with our dogs down in the village of Alloway, so I get to see him at the village board. Relationships matter. It's one of the things I think is the most important thing that I've learned, and I think the thing that Eric has brought forward, and I think that's why it makes him a great mayor. With that, I'd love to introduce the mayor of the city of Green Bay, Eric Genrich. Eric?
Color Guard for presenting the flags, to our artist, 7,000 Apart, for the fantastic music, and Anthem and Kara Cunard for the photographs she's creating for the community as we speak. And thanks to all of our community leaders and elected officials for attending tonight's event, especially members of our Common Council for being here, and more importantly, for the work they do on behalf of our residents every single day. We also have a couple state officials, former state senators here with his wife Jane. David, Jane, thanks for being here. I believe Senator Coles is also in attendance. Appreciate you being here, Rob. County Supervisor Dan Thino in the audience there. Appreciate you being here as well, Dan. And thanks to our Deputy Parks Director, James Anderson, for the introduction and for accurately recounting a fairly harrowing experience for me on Kids Day. And I want to genuinely thank County Executive Troy Streckenbach for introducing me this evening. I consider Troy a friend and a strong partner in government, and I truly value the relationship that we've been able to establish together. You don't need me to say this, but I'll state it plainly anyway. We live in unsettled and unsettling times. The economic environment we're in is unpredictable and anxiety-inducing for many, while the effects and after effects of COVID on the physical, mental, and social health of our community are still being felt. Citizens are justifiably upset by the way our lives have been upended in recent years, and I think we're all searching for that sense of normalcy that seems unreachable at times. Modern life is complicated, and politics is pretty weird these days. Believe me, there's no sense pretending otherwise. And yet, there are real reasons for hope. If there weren't, this would be a real drag of a speech, right? But truly, there are reasons. Those reasons are myriad, they're varied, but they're all rooted in the character of this community's citizenry, which is optimistic, resilient, and imbued with a drive toward cooperation and social solidarity. In my estimation, this community values and lives with heart, healing, and hope at the center of our work. Heart, healing, and hope. Maybe not at all times and in all situations, but this is who we are when we're at our best. And I believe it's who we're called to be. So the state of our city is strong because of our character, our instincts, and the work we're all committed to doing to better ourselves, our families, and our community. And that's, of course, what I'd like to explore with you all tonight for the next few minutes. But before we move forward, let's contemplate the past for a little bit. James touched on this in his comments as well, but nearly 88 years ago, President Franklin Roosevelt visited Green Bay and spoke from this very site to commemorate the tricentennial of Jean Nicolet's landing. This was a momentous occasion in our city's history. Welcoming a sitting president is not something we've had the honor of doing many times. He visited at a politically consequential time for the nation as well, just a few months before Americans would go to the polls to make their opinions known of the president's New Deal for the nation. On that day, FDR spoke of our state's and country's heritage, but he also spoke of the work he deemed necessary to live up to the ideals of the nation's founding. Speaking of the political officials, labor activists, and everyday Americans who spurred on the New Deal movement, FDR said, quote, "They lent a hand and voice to the common cause, irrespective of many older political traditions. They saw the dawn of a new day. They were on the march. They were coming back into the possession of their homeland." Roosevelt was speaking as the U.S. was slowly climbing out of the Great Depression, an economic cataclysm unprecedented in modern history. I speak to you today after this city, state, and country have faced the worst of COVID, a public health emergency without equal in the last 100 years. The Great Depression and COVID-19 were distinct societal challenges, of course, but they both tested our community in ways that left deep scars and caused previously unimaginable trauma, which disconnected Americans from jobs, from families, from the experience of everyday life they'd taken for granted. Our cause is not identical to the work of the New Deal, but we can draw meaningful inspiration from it. We too stand at the dawn of a new day, and we too have an obligation to discard the baggage of dysfunctional and outmoded political practices to achieve great things together for our city, state, and nation. At FAST, we would all have different diagnoses of the maladies that plague our republic and the challenges we must confront locally, but I think we could all agree that our political culture is not reflective of a healthy, cohesive country. National solutions cannot be enacted at the local level, but we do have the ability to take our community's destiny into our own hands, to do everything we can to stitch our social fabric back together, and to lead us toward a future that is worthy of our city's best traditions, including this instinct to lead with heart, healing, and hope at the core. And one of those traditions, that inclination to lead with heart, is one rooted in a fundamental commitment to leading with empathy and compassion, which were prominently on display as this community opened its arms to some of our most recently arriving residents from Afghanistan. While I'm proud to say that I and our Common Council publicly welcome these refugees who are fleeing violence and mortal danger in their home country, it was local charities, businesses, and families who did the real work of making our new neighbors feel welcomed and supported. One organization in particular deserves special recognition for their work in this area, and that's Catholic Charities, which is led by Carmen Lemke. As the lead agency on refugee resettlement efforts in the region, Catholic Charities was at the center of this effort, which would not have been possible without the tireless work of their staff, including our very own Common Council President Jesse Brunette in his private capacity. So please join me in thanking President Brunette, Carmen Lemke, and all the volunteers and staff that have demonstrated such commitment to enriching our community with the addition of our new residents. Another organization I'd like to thank for their efforts in demonstrating compassion, in this case, for residents in need of housing, is the Greater Green Bay Community Foundation. Before I acknowledge their role, I want to emphasize the tireless work of our shelters and service providers who've been pouring themselves into the mission of uplifting the unsheltered in this community for decades. Their everyday passion of caring for the least fortunate members of the city and county has inspired and continues to inspire us to assist them by collaborating in the creation of a roadmap to eradicate homelessness in Green Bay. A process that's been coordinated by the Community Foundation, which is of course led by Dennis Bueller. I'm proud to have served on the steering committee supporting the creation of the Greater Green Bay Blueprint to prevent and end homelessness, but I'm prouder still that our Common Council recognizes the importance of the implementation of this plan and has committed Federal American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA dollars, to partially fund this project. The road ahead will not be easy, and quite frankly, it's become significantly more difficult to traverse because of the explosion in housing costs and the psychosocial effects of COVID. But we're blessed with a network of service providers, advocates, philanthropists, and community leaders who understand the necessity of tackling this problem together and ending the scourge of homelessness here in Green Bay. A third project I've been proud to be a part of over the last few years is one to combat hatred and bigotry to act with empathy and compassion, to stand in solidarity with the LGBTQ community in actions and deeds, tripling the city's score on the Municipal Equality Index and raising the pride flag in front of City Hall for the first time in the city's history. I want to give particular thanks to members of our Equal Rights Commission for taking on a significant leadership role on this topic and others, recognizing the absolute necessity of building a community that's open to all people of goodwill. A community that recognizes the human dignity and worth of every single resident. For me, as an ally in this struggle, this is a crucial piece of my personal project to lead this city with empathy and compassion. And as I've said before, to see people as they see themselves and to stand with them, especially in times of adversity. In addition to demonstrating heart, we also have an instinctive and necessary ability to heal. And we all have an urgent need to do so, politically, economically, socially, and in some cases physically. Political healing might seem impossible or at least unattainable in the short term. And maybe it is, if your only exposure to politics is cable news or comment threads online. But when we're forced to come together across the divides of political differences in forums like our Common Council, there is real opportunity for agreement, alliance, and honest debate over instances of policy difference. This is possible when we express a shared understanding of democracy and pluralism and truly believe in the importance of preserving both. Community healing can also be achieved in part by wisely allocating the city's ARPA funds to rebuild and strengthen the neighborhoods that were disproportionately impacted by the social and economic effects of COVID. To date, our Common Council and I have designated eligible areas of spending for the roughly $23.7 million which has been allocated to us, and we have funded a number of different projects in every category, including investments in roads, stormwater solutions, pedestrian safety, small business supports, public safety initiatives, and tourism-generating events. We've also demonstrated support for our neighborhood associations and the creation of a citizenship academy, because we understand the importance of supporting neighbors helping neighbors and becoming better connected and more informed about neighborhood and city questions. Our Finance Committee just earlier this week conducted another discussion of items proposed by my administration and by members of our council, and I'm optimistic that we'll be able to put the majority of these funds to good use by early this fall. Something else we've been spending a fair amount of time designing and will soon be implementing is the Green Bay Conservation Corps. The city received an AmeriCorps program funding grant to implement the Green Bay Conservation Corps program for the next 3 years. This grant will be used to fund the Conservation Corps coordinator position to manage the program. But in addition, it creates 21 AmeriCorps member positions within the city of Green Bay, 6 full-time and 15 seasonal. Finally, the grant will cover the tools, supplies, and materials needed to run this program. The anticipated outcomes for the first year of this new initiative include improving 3 miles of trails, restoring 75 acres of habitat, inventorying over 100 acres of parks and greenways, leveraging over 100 volunteers, and providing a minimum of 4 educational programs for the public. This new program will enhance the parks and greenways by improving the habitats, trails, and fostering the involvement of the community in preserving and enhancing our public safe spaces here. I'm thankful to the Finance Committee for their unanimous support of this project and to city staff, especially the program's coordinator, Maria Otto, for making this program possible. This is a great example of our efforts to accomplish more for our citizens with limited local resources, which is something we're hoping to do in a more systematic way through the deployment of something known as priority-based budgeting. Our Chief of Operations, Joe Fald, coordinated with all city departments to implement this new philosophy of budgeting, new platform as well, which moves away from the line item focus and toward a more holistic view of our finances, allowing city staff, alders, and most importantly, citizens to identify costs of programs and services and then better allocate resources to align with the goals and initiatives that we as a city have identified. This has been a painstaking process for many city employees, and I want to thank them all for spending so much time and energy creating a platform that will allow our annual budget to be more easily understood by our citizenry. Our strategy of building an environmentally resilient community is an additional area of work that relates to this concept of community healing or strengthening. And I'm very proud of the work done by our Department of Public Works and our Sustainability Commission on this front. Just this Tuesday, our Finance Committee also accepted grant funding from the Wisconsin Public Service Commission, which will fund the creation of a comprehensive clean energy plan that will allow us to plot out a realistic path toward a future for the city of Green Bay that's carbon-free and fiscally prudent. We've also approved a number of code changes that recognize the validity and importance of investing in what's known as green infrastructure, which is another way of characterizing things like permeable pavement, rain gardens, rain barrels, tree plantings, and other enhancements that can slow the infiltration of water into our storm sewer and surface water, reduce pollution, and lower the risk of flooding. On the subject of permeable pavement, we're fortunate to have received a grant award from the Fund for Lake Michigan to install a special type of pavement in association with a road project at the west end of Eliza Street. And regarding rain barrels, we successfully initiated a rain barrel giveaway for 500 Green Bay residents, which was oversubscribed in a matter of hours. We've begun distributing the barrels and hope to reestablish the program next year with lessons learned from this new and hugely popular initiative. Thanks to our resiliency coordinator, Melissa Schmitz, for all this great work. This summary gives you a sense of some of the work in this area of healing or strengthening. But before I move on to this final thematic category of hope, I want to assure you that we aren't taking any of our basic obligations for granted. First and foremost among these foundational responsibilities is the one to keep our residents safe. What President Harry Truman once called the first civil right, the right to be safe in your home and on the streets of your community. Of course, this is the mission of the Green Bay Police Department, led by Chief Chris Davis, someone who's still introducing himself to members of the community as a fairly recent transplant, but someone who has gained immediate respect from our officers, staff, and community members for the way in which he leads with honesty, empathy, and integrity. Green Bay, like just about every community in the country, has seen an uptick in some crimes, but we remain a safe community because of our officers, rank and file and commanding, and because we are a community that expects our laws to be respected. Chief Davis and the rest of the department are working collaboratively with the community every day to keep Green Bay safe by deploying new and innovative forms of technology and engaging in good old-fashioned police work and relationship development to keep Green Bay residents safe and secure, and strengthening the bonds of trust and interdependence that already exist between our citizenry and our officers. Green Bay Metro Fire Department is also second to none in the quality of the services they offer to Green Bay, Alloway, and Bellevue. This year, they welcomed one of the largest recruit classes on record, and as is characteristic of the department, they've deployed some cutting-edge technology into the field in the form of the drone team, which consists of 12 trained operators and 3 drones. The team has been a part of 19 operations so far, including an ice rescue, multiple warehouse fires, standoffs, and several search and rescue missions. We are so fortunate to be served by the men and women of the Green Bay Metro Fire Department, which has been helmed by Chief David Linton for the past 9 years. Chief Linton has made a tremendous impact on our community. Thanks to his leadership, Green Bay was the first city in Wisconsin to achieve a Class 1 public protection rating from the Insurance Services Office. We also saw the successful merger of the Green Bay, Alloway, and Bellevue Fire Departments, benefiting all citizens with the exceptional fire and EMS services. Finally, he's always led the department with an absolute commitment to protecting the well-being of our firefighters and the safety of our community. I will miss his leadership as he moves into retirement, and I thank him for his service to our city. So please join me in thanking Chief Linton. In addition to working every day to keep our residents safe, the city, under the leadership of Steve Grenier at our Department of Public Works, has used all the resources made available to us by our Common Council to construct and reconstruct roads, bridges, and sewers to make sure our residents can go about their daily lives with trust in our vital infrastructure. To wit, our DPW is currently overseeing construction projects that will invest more than $13 million into public infrastructure, improving over 6 miles of city streets, including the reconstruction of 6 streets and the resurfacing of 24 more. We're also in the process of repairing 7 bridges across the city. In addition to the road and bridge work, we received an A rating for sanitary sewer operation and maintenance from the WDNR for the 12th consecutive year, with a continuing decline in the number of sanitary sewer backups. Finally, the department completed restoration of the storm protection dike on the south shore of Green Bay right here, providing wave run-up protection for properties adjoining the bay. And speaking of water, Green Bay is fortunate to have the Green Bay Water Utility, led by Nancy Quirk, providing residents and businesses safe and reliable drinking water every day. The utility recently renovated their headquarters on Adams Street, which has a newly unveiled meeting room that can be used by neighborhood associations and other community groups, and where they're living the mission of meeting and exceeding the most exacting water quality standards by continuing to remove and replace aging pipes. The lead's been out for 2 years, which remains an astounding achievement, but they're still working to remove galvanized pipes that may have been downstream from lead pipes at one time. Nancy and her team are on the leading edge of water quality work every single day, and we're very grateful to have them supplying Green Bay and several surrounding communities with safe, reliable, affordable drinking water. Neil Steck-Schulte and the team at Community and Economic Development are hard at work too, supporting business and property development all across the city. Truly, there are too many positive examples to note, but I will touch on a few. The largest such development in monetary terms is the recently announced $500 million investment at the Georgia Pacific Broadway Mill. Project Cinco, as it's being called, will increase the number of jobs at that location from 870 to around 1,000. The project, which includes an entirely new paper machine, as well as converting lines and the structure to house them, is being added in Green Bay because of the strength of our workforce. That's what we heard over and over again from Georgia Pacific. Something that should all make us proud. GP has not requested public assistance, but this project will require a great deal of work on the part of our commercial inspectors, who stand ready to work collaboratively with Georgia Pacific to make the construction and permitting process as streamlined as possible. Another exciting expansion to note, and one which I'll recognize in another way later in the program, is the one that Carnivore Meat Company, a rapidly growing Green Bay-based pet food manufacturer, is scheduled to break ground on next month at their new location on 28 acres of land on the far east side of town. This $55 million project is being supported with a modest incentive approved by our Common Council and will generate 52 additional positions and $868,000 in annual tax revenue. Who knew? People really love their pets. So looking back just a month, we were pleased to take part in a groundbreaking near the site of the old Brett Favre Steakhouse, which will be the future home of the Legacy Hotel. This 6-story high-end hotel will feature 100 suites, a rooftop bar, a spa, and many other amenities. This project will add additional tax base and economic activity to a critically important corner of our city, known as the Legends District. And in addition to its own merits, it demonstrates needed momentum to attract additional activity to the area. And a few extra hotel rooms might just help our odds of landing that NFL draft one of these years. We continue to celebrate and support the redevelopment efforts ongoing at Easttown Mall, thanks to Garrett Bader and others, and the continued revitalization of the Military Avenue corridor, largely thanks to the Martin family. As I've said before, these two areas of Green Bay are critically important areas of commerce and community activity for us, and we'll continue to do what we can to encourage their rebirth. Lastly, and most critically, our development team, our downtown bids of On Broadway, downtown Green Bay, Old Main, and our downtown Alder, Brian Johnson and I, working every single day to add more development, especially in the form of housing, to our downtown core. 175 units of housing in our downtown grocery store at 200 North Monroe has seen its fair share of construction cost-related delays, but we are on track to begin work there in early 2023. We're also thrilled to support the project proposed by Peter Nugent to construct 5 stories of housing on Cherry Street to help meet the continued demand for downtown living. Finally, I'm happy to report that work will soon recommence at the Fort, which is the apartment development located within the rail yard just west of Lake Park. Been some twists and turns on this development, which is kind of the name of the game during the COVID era. But I'm glad to be able to tell you that Green Bay's Stonehenge, as it's been affectionately deemed, will soon resemble an active construction site again. In addition to a strong development climate, the city's finances are strong and are getting stronger. Our fund balance ended 2021 with $31,554,000 in the bank, which amounts to 35% of total general fund expenditures. And while the city does borrow a significant amount of money to meet our infrastructural needs, our total debt is only 41% of what is allowable under state law. We also received a very positive financial audit and have a bond rating that indicates our bonds to be of high quality and very low risk. Director Ellenbecker and her team deserve a great deal of thanks for their work to keep us on track in this regard. We're also blessed with an incredibly dedicated and talented team of attorneys and support staff and technology experts within our law and IT departments, respectively. Law and IT rarely get the notoriety they might deserve, but we're so fortunate to have Attorney Bungert offering counsel and representation to our city, and Director Honig keeping the organization connected internally to employees and externally with our public. These two departments are always critical to the work of the city, but they've been especially key these last couple of years as the city has navigated difficult legal and challenging development questions, as well as a world that's more reliant than ever on technology. As I said, some of these responsibilities won't grab any headlines, but they're essential to maintaining a solvent and strong city government and community, and they're what give us the confidence and the ability to think big about our community's future. So that, I think, is where hope comes in, right? Blind optimism, obviously, has no value, but if we don't have faith in our ability to create a better future for ourselves and for our community, there's no reason to engage in the political process at all. Or in the words of novelist Kim Stanley Robinson, quote, "Hope or optimism, this attitude, is the necessary political stance to take. It's a dereliction of duty to be pessimistic, to be cynical." I think that's exactly right. Those of us who work in public life or engage in the democratic process have no choice but to believe in humankind's ability to perfect ourselves, our community, and our union. Or at least that's where I'll plant my flag. My faith in the future is tried at times, like everyone's, but we have a lot of reason for optimism in the city of Green Bay, and that's what I'd like to share with you now. Take Bay Beach, for example, or what I like to call the happiest place on earth. This year we celebrate its 130th birthday, and in spite of the recent staffing challenges and ride shutdowns, we continue to welcome millions of visitors each year, and we have big plans for Bay Beach's future. As you'll recall, the city has for several years planned to install a pier, a shoreline walk, and a stand beach area right here. This project has been delayed due to unforeseen issues such as extreme high water levels and funding concerns exacerbated by the pandemic and recently inflated construction costs. In addition, the city's been conducting regular water testing for the last 2 years, the results of which have not been altogether encouraging. These two challenges have prompted us to reconceptualize some of our plans, but they have not diminished my commitment or the commitment of Director Dan Ditchite and key park staff to continue our efforts to increase access to the waters of our Great Lakes just behind you, and to better integrate our natural environment with our incredible amusement park. Stay tuned for those plans in the near future. Additionally, we're hoping to devote some federal funds to replace the roof of this historic main pavilion right behind me and to winterize the historic structure. One key element incorporated into the park master plan is to renovate the main pavilion to make this building a year-round destination instead of just a seasonal use facility. The city will work with an architect to determine what renovations would be most beneficial to provide an improved user experience, making this a desirable rentable space year-round. Renovations that will be explored include windows, flooring, lighting, stage upgrades, ADA accessibility, various finishes, and AV equipment. We're also proposing the purchase of 2 new rides to replace 2 rides that were recently removed because of disrepair. In partnership with our Friends of Bay Beach organization, which has been so instrumental in making this amusement park the gem that it is today, we're hoping to incorporate these new rides into our rotation, renovate this historic pavilion, and continue to modernize and upgrade this one-of-a-kind experience, making it a year-round destination and an attractive place to gather and celebrate no matter the season. Another exciting parks project I'd like to touch on relates to one of the other amazing destinations within the city of Green Bay, Baird Creek, and specifically the park at Triangle Hill. As some may know, we recently broke ground on a new mountain bike skills course. This project was made possible by the Baird Creek Preservation Foundation, the support of the Wisconsin Bicycle Federation, and because of a major contribution by the Saris Foundation and several other local organizations. Once completed, this facility will provide a fun, safe, and equitable place for youth and off-road cyclists of all abilities to grow their skills by practicing on a variety of tracks and mountain bike obstacles. The Baird Creek Preservation Foundation will partner with the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, as well as area youth groups and high school biking clubs and local bike shops to run training camps for youth on this course. This facility is scheduled to open later this summer or early fall. And in tandem with this work, the city has dedicated an additional $100,000 in funding to improve other areas of the mountain bike trail system in the Baird Creek Greenway, which is already recognized as a premier mountain biking destination in the region. Also at Triangle Hill, we have some big plans for our tubing hill. In recent years, it's been difficult to operate that facility, partly because of some mechanical failures, but mostly because we haven't received enough snow to allow for its use. In order to ensure Triangle Hill remains an accessible, family-friendly winter destination for Green Bay residents and visitors from around the region, I've lent my support to the purchase of snowmaking equipment. Our thinking here is similar to the way we look at Bay Beach in that we want some of these premier park amenities to be enjoyed nearly year-round. I'm hopeful that council and community members will see the worthiness of this effort and join us in supporting a project that will offer kids and families a great place to play, will serve as a work opportunity for community young people, and will generate additional revenue for the city. Two additional park projects I'd like to touch on are on the shores of the Fox River in the heart of our downtown. The first is the shipyard, on whose improvements we just broke ground last week, and the second is Liked Park, where we plan to begin work early next year. Regarding the shipyard, it's been a long journey spanning multiple administrations. We've cycled through significant shifts in concepts and designs and private partners, but what's brought us to last week's groundbreaking are three major factors: vision, creativity, and persistence. The vision for the shipyard has been clearly gleaned from conversations in the community, and city staff and our private design and development partners in Stantec, Verge Urban Development, and Impact 7 have been creative and persistent in our drive to accomplish great things for the city. The first phase of improvements include a riverfront promenade, fishing pier, kayak launch, floating docks, and habitat enhancements, and will be ready for the public to enjoy by the summer of 2023. Additional improvements like a great lawn for concerts, festivals, and other events, a dog park, an urban beach, a playground, a splash pad, as well as hundreds of housing units on our waterfront are scheduled for construction in 2023. With respect to Liked Park, a consultant has been hired to design and engineer additional renovations to the park in collaboration with city staff, on-Broadway staff, on-Broadway board members, and community members. This work will greatly enhance one of our premier parks and will include the installation of a new permanent, eye-catching stage, a facility with room for concessions and restrooms, and enough patio space for a beer garden. Priority for me. Construction will begin in the spring of 2023, and the city will team up with On-Broadway to keep the space activated throughout the year with the events the community has grown to love and new programming that will more consistently bring visitors to this great public space. Speaking of visitors to our downtown and our wider community, I was excited to help welcome a couple cruise ships into the Port of Green Bay for the first time in the city's history in June. Thanks to our Common Council's investment, these hundreds of guests disembarked at one of the finest port facilities on the Great Lakes. Some might not think of Green Bay as a vacation destination, not naming any names here, Aaron Rodgers, but clearly many do, including Great Lakes Cruise Lines. So in the coming years, we plan to welcome not just a couple, but hopefully a couple dozen cruise ships into our community every summer to enjoy everything we have to offer and support many of our small businesses and tourist destinations. Moving just a bit to the south from Liked Park and back to the Shipyard neighborhood, I'd be remiss if I didn't discuss our effort to relocate the coal piles. I will say to you this year what I said last year, which is that we've never been closer to making this move possible. But this year, we have even more reason for optimism because of the support of Governor Tony Evers and his administration, which granted $15 million to this effort that's been jointly engaged in by the Port of Green Bay, Brown County, and the City of Green Bay, and with the support of Sea Rice Coal. What's brought us to this point and what will bring us to the finish line is an example of collaboration at all levels of government, bearing fruit for the City of Green Bay. In many respects, the stars have certainly aligned for us to even entertain this concept. But these kinds of projects don't bear fruit by accident. They happen when leaders put community needs before parochial interests. So I again want to thank County Executive Streckenbach and his team at the Port of Green Bay for walking with us each step of the way to make possible a project that has wide-ranging benefits, not just for the people of Green Bay, but also for the region as a whole. As I've said before, this isn't a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's a once-in-a-city's lifetime opportunity. And thanks to the support of Governor Evers and resources made available by our president, we're seizing this opportunity. We now have the chance to redevelop 35 acres of waterfront property in downtown Green Bay and add port activity on the Fox River, which continues to be a working river and a major economic engine for the region. So what comes next? Assuming we're able to successfully negotiate the relocation with C. Rice and with Brown County, what replaces the coal piles, especially the northernmost 10 acres, which is most fitting for downtown-style redevelopment? The public vision I've shared publicly in the past is one I still have, which consists of access to the water plus a mix of residential and office uses, bars and restaurants. But I'd also like to share an additional element that I've only dreamt about privately or with a few other people. And it's this. Ultimately, I think this soon-to-be former coal pile site would be an ideal location for an Amtrak station in downtown Green Bay. I believe this is exactly the kind of anchor we need in this corner of the community to spur even more growth and invite more residents and visitors into this soon-to-be revitalized area of our city. In an effort to continue to keep this train moving, that pun was for Alder Scannell, we've begun organizing local communities along the proposed corridor to express our support for the return of passenger rail and its inclusion in the National Corridor Development Plan. As we continue to make our case to the Federal Railroad Administration, I'd encourage you all to join the current group of advocates, including New Rails and the Greater Green Bay Chamber of Commerce, to help us make the case that this passenger rail connection between Green Bay and Milwaukee and many communities in between will be hugely beneficial to our area businesses and residents and also the regional economy. Before we leave the topic of transportation, I do want to put in a plug for Green Bay Metro Transit, which under Patty Kiewis' leadership has in so many instances led the way on transit innovation within the state. Metro did that when rolling out microtransit services known as Green Bay Metro On Demand, a public ride-hailing service that was the first in the state. And they'll be doing it again when we introduce a fleet of autonomous transit vehicles. These AVs, as they're called, won't be replacing our traditional lines or microtransit service, but they will be able to supplement existing service, making it easier to get from the east side of our downtown to the west side, for example, or to enable people to move easily from Lambeau Field to the Legends District on the southwest side of town. I'm excited about the prospect of this new and innovative service and expect it to begin in early 2023. One last new and exciting development I'd like to touch on involves some 25 acres of property the city has received as a donation from JBS. I covered this donation last year, but what's happened since has given us all even more hope that we'll be able to bring this new neighborhood to life. First, as we announced in March, the city has been granted $5 million from the Evers administration to create housing options for people of all income levels and family sizes, an urban farm, and a destination playground and park, which will serve residents but also attract visitors from all around the region. The formal grant agreement will be brought before our Common Council in the near future, as will a proposal to assist in the design of this site. The city also received a great deal of support from the Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative in bringing disparate community voices together to inform the work on this. Our city's Chief of Staff, Ahmad Rivera-Wagner, and Chief of Operations, Joe Falds, and I were honored to attend the program last fall. The Bloomberg Harvard City Leadership Initiative is a program that aims to advance leadership, management, and innovation in cities by equipping mayors and senior city officials with the skills, tools, and techniques to tackle city challenges. In addition to attending the initiative's core programming, we subsequently applied for and were accepted into a specialized part of the program that focuses on using team building and cross-sector collaboration as strategies to address complex community issues. That's a long way of saying that we've been thinking about this project in a deep way for some time, and we now feel prepared to act very deliberately and with the support and guidance of the surrounding neighborhood residents and advice of Alder Morgan and other neighborhood leaders. This is a rare opportunity to create a new neighborhood that's open and inclusive and accessible to people of all backgrounds and incomes. And we'll continue to act with intention to incorporate the hopes of aspiring residents and community members and partners to make this vision possible. Because this, in a microcosm, is what I dream of for this city. I consider myself to be a part of a project to build a thriving multiracial democracy that makes space for all people to flourish. And it's this project that I'm most optimistic about. Maybe that's naive, but I don't think it is. Our democracy has been tested, locally and nationally, but we've persevered and we're now stronger than ever here in the city. In Green Bay, we will have more hours for early in-person absentee voting than ever before. We added Saturday voting in 2020, and thanks to the leadership of Clerk Jeffries and the support of our Common Council, we now have the funds to conduct Sunday voting as well. Some think that democracy should be hard, that it's okay to put up barriers for some populations, that we don't need to create more opportunities for people to participate in the governing of their communities and of our country. I reject that view, not only because it doesn't jibe with my vision of governance, but because it's out of step with the best traditions of our country. And one of the finest examples of someone who lived and created the best of these traditions is the late Congressman John Lewis, someone we lost just over 2 years ago. John Lewis was and will always be a giant of American democracy. The son of a sharecropper from rural Alabama who rose to lead the Black freedom struggle and become a member of the U.S. Congress. On the night of my election, I quoted an excerpt of an interview he then had recently given in which he talked with radical love and optimism, describing how one should live a life of activism or politics. He said, quote, "You have to have this sense of faith that what you're moving toward is already done. It's already happened. You live like you're already there. That you're already in that community, part of that sense of one family, one house. That's the place in which I dream and live, that home in which we all belong. And that's Green Bay." Again, I'm so proud to live in and help lead this community that so clearly expresses heart, healing, and hope every single day. And I hope you're proud to live here too. Green Bay is an exceptional city in a great state in an indispensable nation, and I am incredibly lucky to be your mayor. Thanks so much for being here tonight. But before you run off to enjoy the big wheel or take in some more music by 7,000 apart, I want to take a few minutes to recognize some people for their work on behalf of our community this past year by designating our Business of the Year, Employee of the Year, and Citizen of the Year. All of these award winners represent what's best about Green Bay, and I'm very excited to be able to highlight their contributions to our city with a small token of appreciation. All right, so we're going to kick things off with our Business of the Year. Whereas the Carnivore Meat Company promotes health, longevity, and well-being of our pets, dogs, cats, and other carnivorous friends, by offering premium quality raw, frozen, and freeze-dried pet food and treats manufactured in our Green Bay, Wisconsin. Whereas Carnivore Meat Company is scheduled to break ground next month at their new location on 28 acres of land in the city of Green Bay to be fully operational by the end of March 2024. And whereas this $55 million project is being supported with a modest incentive approved by our Common Council and will generate 52 additional positions and $868,000 in annual tax revenue. And whereas Carnivore Meat Company is the most tenured raw pet food producer in the nation and one of the leading private label providers of raw pet food, privately held Carnivore Meat Company provides innovative solutions in the pet food industry. And whereas Carnivore Meat Company is family-owned and has been recognized for its growth and accomplishments and manufacturing excellence with several awards in recent years, including the Greater Green Bay Chamber Growth Award, Wisconsin Manufacturer of the Year Award, Governor's Export Achievement Award, Greater Green Bay Chamber Manufacturing Award of Distinction, and Inc. 5000's fastest growing private companies. I'm not sure if they need this award on top of all those. Whereas it is fitting and proper that the city of Green Bay recognize Carnivore for their commitment and dedication to investing in our community. Now therefore, I, Eric Genrich, Mayor of the city of Green Bay, do hereby proclaim Carnivore Meat Company as Business of the Year in the city of Green Bay, and ask that all residents join me in celebrating carnivore meat and extending our sincere appreciation for their investment in and commitment to our community. we will present our Employee of the Year. Whereas Shelby Edelbeck has diligently served the city of Green Bay for 7 years in the Department of Information Technology and Services in multiple roles, including multimedia coordinator since 2015. And whereas Shelby currently serves in the position of software support specialist, where her commitment to the improvement of city technological services and support for staff is unparalleled. And whereas Shelby is widely respected for her graphic design skills, willingness to help, and her expert multimedia skills, not only in the Department of IT, but across City Hall. And whereas Shelby has served as project manager on some of the largest information technology improvements, such as our transition to civic clerk, her talent in managing these large-scale efforts has gained her a seat on the board of governors for civic clerk, being an ambassador for technology and local governments. And whereas Shelby brings a positive attitude and exemplary work ethic to the city of Green Bay community of employees, and has been instrumental in developing upgrades to processes and technologies for our city. And whereas it is fitting and proper that the city of Green Bay recognize Shelby for her commitment and dedication to work and to public service for the city of Green Bay residents, now therefore I, Eric Genrich, Mayor of the city of Green Bay, do hereby proclaim Shelby Edelbeck as Employee of the Year. Congratulations, Shelby. And I should say, it's a great example of why Shelby is the Employee of the Year. She's not even supposed to be here tonight working, but she's doing it. All right, last but not least, we have our Citizen of the Year. Sadly, he is traveling, but he is so worthy of this honor. I'm really excited to bestow it on him. So whereas Rashad Cobb has regularly gone above and beyond the call of duty in his commitment to the community of Green Bay, and whereas the depth and breadth of his work within and outside his professional capacity to serve impacts so many people in our community, and whereas while serving on the Police and Fire Commission, Green Bay Transit Commission, and maintaining his role as Director of Equity and Community Initiatives at the Community Foundation, he successfully led the effort to fund the implementation of the Greater Green Bay Blueprint to prevent and end homelessness, and served as a team member for the city's Harvard-Bloomberg collaboration for the redevelopment of land donated by JBS. And whereas Cobb spent years working at the Boys and Girls Club of Green Bay, where he mentored and supported the next generation of leaders, the constant, dedicated support by Mr. Cobb to the people of Green Bay has long been part of his career. And whereas he shares his talents with a variety of local institutions, serving as a board member for Family Services of Wisconsin, Literacy Green Bay, NeighborWorks Green Bay, Brown County United Way, and as a student mentor with the Green Bay Area Public School District. And whereas the citizens of Green Bay owe a debt of immeasurable gratitude to Rashad for his unwavering support and commitment to the betterment of our community, now therefore I, Eric Genrich, Mayor of the City of Green Bay, do hereby proclaim Rashad Cobb as Citizen of the Year. So thanks again for joining us here tonight, for loving your city, for celebrating your city. Have a fantastic evening. Enjoy the music. Enjoy one another's company. Thanks for coming.